All right, let's just jump right into this explainer. We're going to completely shatter the illusions of what wealth actually looks like in 2025 and literally map out the exact mathematical playbook to achieve true financial freedom. If you've been feeling lately like you're running faster and faster just to stay in the exact same place financially, well, you're not crazy. And honestly, the math absolutely proves it. So here's our roadmap for today. We'll start with the 2025 wealth illusion, then cover why psychology beats intelligence, and hit the $20,000 tipping point. After that, we'll look at the compound snowball, the optimal investment order, and finally, why wealth literally equals buying time. Starting right off with part one, the 2025 wealth illusion, or why making more money somehow feels like falling behind. Let's start with a bit of a reality check. A lot of people earning really good incomes right now describe feeling this constant nagging financial anxiety, and they usually assume it's their own fault. But to understand why we feel so squeezed today, we just have to look at the geometric distortion of housing math. Think about it. Since 1990, everyday paychecks are actually up a pretty healthy 180%. But the median home price, that's jumped 252%. We've gone from a totally manageable 3-to-1 home price to income ratio all the way up to a 5-to-1 ratio. This math right here entirely explains that massive invisible squeeze on the modern middle class. It literally takes way more of your life force just to buy a roof over your head. And while it's not just housing, we are facing some massive structural shifts this year. To look at the data objectively, unprecedented AI infrastructure and energy costs have actually driven domestic electricity prices up by 35%. Meanwhile, sweeping trade protectionism tariffs, hitting anywhere from roughly 9.6 to 15%, are acting as these invisible headwinds on your everyday purchasing power. These are huge macroeconomic forces that you absolutely cannot control, yet they're quietly draining your wallet every single day. But hey, beyond the macroeconomy, we're kind of trapping ourselves too. Take the subscription trap. That $2,628 you see right there, that represents the massive annual gap between what average people think they spend on monthly subscriptions and what they actually spend. I mean, we usually guess around $86 a month, but the real number is $219. We are literally bleeding over $2,000 a year to forgotten digital services. It's crazy. Moving on to part two, psychology over intelligence. Because finance is actually a soft skill, not a hard science. So while the economy is undeniably tough right now, surviving it actually has very little to do with raw intelligence. Just look at this wild contrast. On one side, you have a brilliant tech executive who literally invented parts of Wi-Fi technology, made absolute millions, but he bought $1,000 gold coins just to skip them like rocks into the ocean for fun. Today, the guy is completely broke. On the other side, we have Ronald Reed, a janitor, a minimum wage earner who simply lived frugally, automated his investments, and quietly passed away with an $8 million net worth. You're never going to see a high school dropout perform better heart surgery than a doctor, but in finance, a minimum wage janitor can absolutely crush an elite tech executive just by having better psychological self-control. A huge part of that self-control is wrapping your head around this concept, the Ferrari effect. Think about it. When you see someone driving a $100,000 car, you don't really admire the driver, do you? No, you admire the car, and you imagine yourself driving it. The actual driver is entirely invisible to you. So if you're out there spending money just to look rich, you're falling right into this psychological trap. True wealth isn't the flashy car you bought to impress strangers. True wealth is the money you chose not to spend. It's all those invisible options and freedom sitting safely in your accounts. Which brings us to part three, the $20,000 tipping point, escaping the gravity of the poverty premium. This psychological self-control eventually builds into our first major mathematical milestone. You see, before you hit this tipping point, you're paying what's called the poverty premium. Living paycheck to paycheck literally forces you to pay these hidden, constantly accumulating costs. Just in 2022 alone, banks collected $9.9 billion in overdraft fees. Plus, you can't buy in bulk, which ends up costing you 20 to 30% more at the grocery store, and you're forced to pay expensive monthly insurance premiums instead of just getting the cheaper annual rate. But hitting that $20,000 threshold, it permanently removes you from this expensive, exhausting cycle. And the psychological relief from this happens so fast. Research from Vanguard actually shows that having just a $2,000 buffer creates a massive 21% increase in financial happiness. That is literally the difference between waking up and asking, how am I going to survive this month, versus what do I actually want to build? It finally allows you to stop just surviving and start building. So, how exactly do we structure this tipping point? Well, by mechanically deploying your first $20,000 into four specific buckets. 8,000 goes straight to a high-yield savings account as your untouchable shield. 7,000 fully maxes out a Roth IRA, so your money grows completely tax-free. 3,000 goes into a taxable brokerage account for accessible growth. And finally, you keep a permanent $2,000 buffer sitting in your checking account, which absolutely eliminates your overdraft risk. Doing this whole shebang transitions you from being just a consumer to an active, powerful participant in the investor class. All right, part 4, the compound interest snowball, the agonizingly slow start and the unstoppable finish. Now that you've got your foundation built, we really need to talk about the terrifying and unstoppable physics of compound interest. I want you to seriously think about the question we're showing here. Because honestly, most people just give up during those really frustrating early years, way before the exponential math takes over. They kind of treat investing like a linear path, where $1 saved equals $1 earned. But that is absolutely not how it works. Just look at this breakdown. If you're investing $500 a month, it takes nearly 8 painful years to reach your first $100,000. And during that time, you're doing the heavy lifting, right? You're contributing 46% of the value yourself. But look at the second bar. It only takes 5 additional years to reach your second $100,000. And the vast majority of that growth, that comes from compound interest, not your own pocket. Gravity has finally switched sides. It's like the boulder is finally rolling down the hill, gathering its own snow. If we fast forward this process, we hit another truly magical number. When you reach a specific portfolio milestone of $650,000, an 8% return generates $52,000 in passive income every single year. Let that sink in. You are essentially generating a median salary without lifting a single finger. It effectively gives you the financial security to take calculated life risks, like, starting a business or changing careers, without that constant fear of destitution. Next up is part 5, the optimal investment order, the step-by-step mechanical playbook. Okay, so before you invest another single dollar, we need to make sure you are doing it in the mathematically correct order, because trying to invest in the stock market while you're carrying credit card debt at an average 22% interest rate, that is literally like trying to run a marathon with a backpack full of rocks. Actually, mathematically speaking, paying off that card guarantees you a 22% return, which will beat the stock market every single time. We have to stop trying to fill a bucket that has massive holes in the bottom. So take a screenshot of this because this specific order of operations is your definitive blueprint. Step 1 secures your safety net. Step 2 destroys that wealth-killing debt we just talked about. Step 3 grabs a 100% guaranteed return through your employer match. Never leave free money on the table. Step 4 utilizes your IRA for lower fees and tax advantages. Step 5 taps into the ultimate secret weapon, the health savings account, which is actually triple tax advantaged. And finally, Step 6 is where you dump whatever is left into your 401k and standard brokerage accounts. Follow this, and you are optimizing every single dollar. And that brings us to our final section, part 6, wealth equals buying time, the ultimate dividend money pays. So why go through the discipline of this optimal investment order at all? Well, part of it is pure survival. Whether you're navigating retirement in the US or looking at options as a non-resident Indian abroad, accurately calculating your future expenses is pretty shocking. Real inflation for lifestyle needs hits around 6 to 8%, and nursing home care, that now averages a staggering $129,000 a year, proving that you really do need an aggressive, structured compounding portfolio to protect yourself later in life, not just some loose savings account. But the real goal is a lot deeper than just surviving. As financial author Morgan Housel notes right here, getting money and keeping money are completely different skills. Keeping it requires humility. It's about preserving your optionality. The absolute highest dividend that money pays isn't a luxury car. It's the ability to wake up every morning and say, I can do whatever I want today. You're using money not to buy things, but to buy back your time and your freedom. The macroeconomic headwinds are very real, sure, but the playbook to overcome them is right in front of you. Every single purchase you make is a choice between looking wealthy today or actually being wealthy tomorrow. So will your next dollar buy you a fleeting status symbol, or will it buy you a piece of your future freedom? Thanks for joining me on this explainer. Go out there, start building that compound snowball, and I'll see you next time.